Hey, Alix and Keir, welcome to FrightFest Glasgow.
Hello.
Hello.
So happy to be here.
So, you've been to Glasgow before?
Yes.
You lived here or something?
I studied here at the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland, but we actually met here 11 years ago.
Ooh.
We actually went to the Cafe Nero that we met at yesterday. We went there to reminisce about the first time we ever met each other. Yeah,
How romantic, how fabulous.
And now we made a toxic relationship body horror movie.
That's the deal, yes. So, Kill Your Lover, which we're premiering this evening, tell us about it in a non-spoilery way.
Go, kid.
Okay, well, so Kill Your Lover is about a toxic relationship about two people who really fundamentally shouldn't be together. And the more that Dakota, who's the lead female, tries to break up with Axel, her boyfriend, the more he slowly starts growing weird veins all over his body. And when he touches people, he melts their skin.
It's the perfect midnight film. And you guys are regulars at FrightFest over the years. You've had projects with us before. You co-directed Isolation. Do you remember the feature which you directed a segment within? But this is your first feature.
Yes.
And your previous other stuff has been short. So give us a bit about your background.
Well, actually, that's really interesting, too, because the things that we would say is that this feature was kind of weirdly born out of coming to FrightFest, because we went with Isolation, which was an anthology feature that we did during the pandemic, which was produced by our friend Nathan Crooker and included directors like Bobby Rowe and Larry Fessenden. And we were just really honored to be part of that. And we came to FrightFest and we just felt so like we love being here. We love being part of this.
We were really galvanized.
We just were like, we literally said, okay, come August next year, like 1 year from now, we need to be filming our own feature. And we put that date in the diary and we said, don't have any money. We don't know we don't know how we're going to make it happen, but come a year from now, we have to be shooting our first feature. So FrightFest is kind of, it's kind of one of the reasons we made this film.
And how do you guys work together? You write and direct together, don't you? How do you divide up the chores?
Well, I was also going to say we made Sucker, a short film together that also played then a year later because we couldn't wait to come back. But then we made the feature in the meantime too. But in answer to your question, we basically co-direct and co-write now. We co-produce this movie as well. But in terms of this particular project, we basically had a unified vision. We storyboarded everything together. We discussed everything ahead of time. But when we were on set, it was really important to us to have one voice talking to the acting department and one voice talking to the camera department. So Keir did the sort of talking to the DP, and I more took over talking to the actors, with the idea being that way they would also get more time with our very limited shooting schedule, because we shot the whole thing in 15 days.
15 days,
And how did you find making your first feature? Was it a massive challenge or was it a breeze?
I think the weirdest thing to say is actually the feature, because I think we took everything we'd learned from shorts, and because we took it so seriously and we're like, we can't run out of time. We have to plan for everything. And we had actually more crew on this than we had on any short film we'd ever made. It actually weirdly was better. It was an easier shoot than pretty much any short film we ever made.
I think
less stressful.
The main thing to say is we're used to being our own first ADs, just doing everything. So we were actually both stood behind the monitor at points going, wait, what do we need to do?
This is going too well.
I'm not run off my feet. Something is wrong. I'm not permanently exhausted.
We actually finished early on 3 days.
We just had a really good team in place that helped us just move everything smoothly, which was great.
Why do you think there's a sudden kind of tide of sexy horror or sexual horror pictures? A movie which we're premiering tomorrow, Custom, world premiere, similar kind of totally different subject, but sex. And also Joe Lynch's picture, which we showed, was quite a sexy horror. Why do you think that people are ready now for slightly more sexual stuff?
I think there's probably a bit of wanting to get back to that erotic thriller, those kind of vibes.
Not a nostalgia for that.
Yeah, I would also say that I feel like there is a bit of a disconnect between the cerebral, we're all on our phones all the time, and we're and I feel like there's a disconnect between us and our bodies, and I feel like, at least for us, it was important to show quite a naturalistic, incidental, kind of very just organic, sort of real romantic relationship as well.
When it's interesting too because Daria, who is our production coordinator on Kill Your Lover, also worked on Custom, and he was actually talking about whether about planning on doing it like while he was working with us. And we know Tiago, we know Andy, we know Abby, so it's that there's I think there's a kind of thing in the ether of kind of people who are kind of interested in this, and we all kind of know each other and are kind of interested in kind of like pursuing some of this content, because I do think that like especially mainstream films have become oddly very sexless.
A bit bland.
Yeah.
So this is one of the very first screenings in the world, isn't it? Because you did Brooklyn Horror.
Yes.
How did that go?
Really good.
Really good.
Big world premiere.
It was the really interesting thing is I think that people don't go into it realizing that it's got as many laughs as it has. I think people think it's going to be very like dour and intense, but it's actually...
It's important to stress though, it's not comedic. It's more absurd. Like we love South Korean movies and the tonal shifts that happen in that. So that's the thing.
Yeah.
I think you go, oh, it's a couple and they're breaking up and it's all very sad. But it's not. It's like life is absurd and our movie has its absurd and hopefully very relatable moments.
Well, we've become very enamored, I think, with this notion of operatic filmmaking, with the idea of like big emotions. They're like you can laugh, cry, everything's kind of like you're expressing the sort of the full scale of human experience, rather than I think what is also very traditionally in this country, which is the very kind of like quiet, contemplative, more insular kind of thing, and we're kind of like, no, big shits.
And it's very bombastic. And I think, so far the audience response has been very much midnight movie, which is why we were so excited that you guys...
It's the perfect midnight.
Well. And so the energy at Brooklyn was like very like electric, and we're really hoping that it goes down similarly here.
And what's happening with regards to distribution? Have you heard anything yet? How can the general public see it in the future?
Well, I don't know if we've, we do know stuff. I don't know what's actually officially been announced.
You can't say.
So, yeah, we can't actually, but it will, we can say it will probably come out in North America, at some point this year, and then other stuff we can't really talk about at the moment.
Sure.
But
and what's next?
We've got 2 projects.
Yeah.
One of them is a werewolf movie. It's imagine essentially Crank meets Ginger Snaps.
Oh, I love the sound of that. Have you got a title for that yet? Or not?
Alpha Freak.
Alpha Freak. Okay.
Yes.
And what's the other project? You said
the other project is a Scotland-based project that we're developing called Grey Sky.
Have you ever heard of The Grey Man?
Yes.
Yeah. It's a kind of like, it's a really underutilized kind of Scottish myth that's basically Scottish Bigfoot. And it's kind of like, so I've been kind of weirdly obsessed with it since I was a kid. So I really want to, and basically there's not a lot of good Bigfoot movies. No. So I think like it'd be really interesting to make a Bigfoot movie in Scotland, essentially.
That's amazing. That'll be perfect for FrightFest Glasgow next year or the year after or whenever.
It might take a while to put together, but I think we've got a really interesting spin on it.
I love the way all 3 of the projects the 2 future ones and this one sound very, very different.
Yeah, we
we
love
very different.
We love monster movies, but there's so much variety to the way that you can do a monster movie. I think people have a very sort of small idea of what kind of like a monster movie can be.
I would say Alpha Freak is more of an action horror, like very forward momentum driven, smack my bitch up, prodigy shenanigans, and then Grey Sky on the other hand is like more of an eco horror, creepy vibes. So we definitely don't see ourselves as just making one type of film.
Brilliant. Thank you guys so much, and good luck with your premiere this evening.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.